All right, hello friends. I just recorded like a quarter of this and realized that some parts of it weren't recorded and then other parts I thought I was sharing my screen and I wasn't. So we're gonna do another take. Anyways, hello. I am just doing a quick recap of the worship meeting that we had last Sunday. And a number of people told me that they were so interested in wanting to be there, but couldn't be there for a number of reasons. And so I thought I would just do a quick recap of what we talked about, what worship is going to look like in student ministry this year. And then maybe this is too something that you guys can share with your parents, just so they know what's happening as well. And so you guys have some kind of a foundational idea of what we're doing. And I will also attach the documents that we'll talk about real quick, so you don't have to like screenshot or anything like that. And those documents, there's two of them. So there's one that's this this get to know you pack, and there's some fun questions in here, like what do you want to do for fun? How do you rest well? Are there more wheels or doors in the world? Stuff like that. But there's also some more serious questions, like where are you in your walk with God? How do you best worship Him on your own? Stuff like that. And that pack is just really to help us as leaders get to know where you guys are coming from, which helps us serve you better. So if you wanted to fill that out, either download it and fill it out and send it back in email or give it back to me in person, that's fine. I also have some hard copies that if you ask me in person, I'll just give one to you and you can fill it out, give it back. And so that's document number one. Document number two that we will walk through today is this kind of student vision / info pack that has all the details of what we're talking about this semester and this year. And we'll walk through that to help you understand what we're doing. But there is one like particular metaphor image that I want to put on our brains right at the start of this. Sorry. And that is this image of a house and a foundation. I talked a lot about this in our meeting on Sunday, but what do you need in a foundation for it to be strong, for it to uphold the house? You need a lot of different components to make the concrete. You need the right structure, but it needs to be founded on in a biblical sense, on truth, on God's word, and on what God is doing in our world today. And so a lot of the why, a lot of the vision that we're going to talk about is really like we're talking about it particularly this semester to give us that strong foundation, so that when we think about leading other people in worship, we're doing it on top of a really strong foundation that is just going to make it way more fun, way more enjoyable. It's going to feel less stressful, hopefully, to us as teams, and it's going to point people to God more, which is the most important part of it, right? So we're going to walk through that real quick, but I'll attach it as a file as well in case you want to look at it. Again, I'll also have hard copies. If you see me and you want a copy, I'll give it to you for sure. So let me share my screen. There we go. Should be able to see it. If not, I will have to do some editing. So this is just an outline of what that foundation is going to look like in practical terms. So we started the meeting on Sunday by asking this question of why. Tell me why, sort of like that. And we asked why. The first question that we asked why about is why are you in particular wanting to do worship this year? What is it about worship teams that intrigues you? What do you like? What's your why? And we asked that because knowing your personal why going into this is going to help with a lot of things. It's going to help with helping us as leaders understand where you're coming from, for sure. It's also going to help with when like life gets stressful, when school gets stressful, when hopefully worship won't get stressful, but it is still a commitment that you're making. That we'll talk about at the end more too. That knowing your personal why for doing this is going to help you make decisions about priorities this year, and it's going to help shift our attitude in our hearts to more of a place of worship when we are here in the midst of stress. And so knowing your why is going to be really important for this year. So I encourage you to take some time if you don't know that already. I encourage you to think maybe a little deeper than just I'm here because I like music. If you are, I love music too. That's why I'm here. but it's not the only reason why I'm here. And so I encourage you to think a little deeply about that and see what you come up with. But the second why that we talked about is, why do we focus on worship in student ministry? And what's kind of the big whys behind why we exist and why we do worship teams and all this stuff that we do. And so I just made a quick outline of what that why is for this year. And I think we established 5 whys that we'll talk through here. And then if you have questions, like, totally text me, email me, call me, let me know, and we can just talk about it, or come up to me when you see me in person. My heart is in a lot of this, and in all of it, really. So the first big why that we exist is as you see right here, we want to engage the entire student body in times of worship in a variety of forms. So if we look at scripture, if we dig into that, we see that God gives us so many different ways to worship. And we in today's church world tend to focus a lot on musical worship, which obviously we love collectively. And so we're going to spend a lot of time doing that. But there's a lot outside of musical worship that is worship as well. And so part of why we exist is to help all of our students, whether you're on worship team or not, experience those different forms of worship and use those to grow closer to God together. So we're going to be focusing on a lot of those in our times together, and we'll talk about that at a later time as well. The second why is that we want to equip you guys for lifelong worship. So we talked about last Sunday, I forgot who said it, but we brought up the fact that, like, okay, you're a student, you grow up, you graduate, and you don't just like evaporate after you graduate, right? Like, you still exist. You go on adulting, you join ministries and churches, and you keep living. And so part of what we want to do is give you guys the tools, right? If we think back to the foundation and the house analogy, we want to give you guys the tools to build your lifelong house of worship. And that sounds like super metaphorical maybe, but what that practically means is that we're going to talk about a lot of individual practices, a lot of things you can do on your own, and a lot of communal practices, things you can do in groups of people, of believers together. They're going to help you, that you can take beyond Eastbrook, you can take beyond youth group after you graduate, and continue to worship God in different ways and continue to enjoy that. And then eventually to help other people you might meet in life do that as well. The third why is that we, as you see here, we want to develop you guys musically, theologically, relationally, and in servant leadership. And here's a key phrase: according to how God has wired you. So just a brief outline of those. We want to develop you guys musically. We have fun with music. I hope that you guys love music as well. And that's part of why you want to be here. And part of why we exist is to help us grow individually and as a team in our musical skills, in our passions, in our breadth of knowledge, in our depth of knowledge. And so we're going to spend a lot of time doing that. And so that could mean spending time on your individual instruments, learning different things. Say I play guitar, right? So learning more on guitar. We're going to spend time learning how to do music together, because doing music in a group is different than doing music on your own. And then we're going to spend time even maybe experimenting with trying different instruments and expanding you beyond what you already know. So that'll all be really fun. I'm looking forward to that. We also want to develop you theologically. So theology, if you've never heard that word before, is just the study of God. So theo meaning God, and then ology, the study of. So the study of God. And there's questions that come up when we talk about worship that are important, that are part of this foundation that we want to build, right? Of like, what even like is worship according to the Bible? What is our role in it, right? Because the Bible, and this is a whole nother thing, but the Bible is not written to us in the 21st century in Milwaukee. It's written for us, though, even though it was written to people thousands of years ago in different places around the world. So what is our role in what the Bible has to say about worship? And then where does music fit in, right? Going back to the first point, music is only one part of worship, but a lot of scripture is spent talking about what musical worship is and why it exists. So we want to help us kind of wrestle with those questions so that when we're on stage, we kind of know why we're there. Going back to why the why is so important. We want to develop you relationally. So obviously working as a team can be really, really fun sometimes, and it can be kind of difficult. So we're going to work that out with just our relationships between each other, how to do that musically, how to be vulnerable with each other. Guys, I know that can be scary for a lot of us, right? It's hard to be vulnerable, but being real is part of what it means to worship God. We're going to grow each other in communication, and just what does it mean to even set a culture? We'll talk about what that looks like as well. And then finally, we want to develop you in servant leadership. And so particularly in the area of worship, there's a lot of different areas that you can help with, and we want to help you train in those areas so that, again, wherever you go after you graduate, you have the skills to help people worship. So we've listed some there too, but the reality is that being a servant leader is much more about heart condition than a task list. And so we're going to talk about that as well. Next reason why we exist is that we exist to model discipleship within the worship ministry context. And that's a whole sermon right there, guys. But the heart of that is God calls us to follow him, right? Jesus says, follow me. And that's like a constant walking. And so we want to have people who have walked with God for a little bit, show people who are new to walking God what that looks like, and encourage them, and then call us all to a higher standard, to a higher calling that Jesus is calling us towards. And the key thing here I want to point to is this middle point, that part of this discipleship is that our culture, our main focus is that worship is much more of a heart condition than it ever is a performance. And so we're going to focus on developing the sense of like worship is between me and God, involving other people, but it's a heart condition about God. It's not a performance. We're not here to care about what people think about us or anything like that, or playing all the right notes like a professional musician. Worship is a heart condition. And so we'll talk about that. And then finally, we want to train you guys to serve well in future ministry capacities. So brought this up a little bit already, but once you guys graduate, even now, as you're starting to serve in maybe different areas of the church, we want to give you guys tools to help other people grow closer to God. So those are all the big whys, which I know that was a lot, but here's what I really want to point out. The core of that, if we were to sum it up, is this bottom line. We want to equip and train you to lead our student ministry and worship according to how God has shaped you. You get ownership. We as leaders will support and guide you. So we have the keys here to this on Sunday. This is officially handing you guys as students the keys to this worship ministry. And so us as leaders are going to be here to guide you and lead you, especially at the start. We're going to show you how to drive and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we want you guys to lead your fellow students in worship. That's just a really powerful thing. And I believe, and I've seen it bear incredible fruits. So bottom line, if you take away anything from this video, is this, that you guys are going to be the ones leading this ministry, and us as leaders are definitely going to help you build that foundation in that house, and support you and be there for you and disciple you. But this is your ministry, guys, which is super, super exciting. So that's the big kind of why in a page. If we go on to talking about what that looks like practically, I'll throw this up here and talk about it in a second. That is a very large foundation to try to build right away. And so in order to help with that, we're actually not going to be leading musical worship for our student nights in the fall semester. We're going to do other forms of worship during that time. So it's not like we won't be worshiping, but we won't be leading the rest of the group in musical worship. And the big reason is, like I just said, that we want to lay this foundation that's going to take a while. And as I was talking with different students and leaders, it felt like maybe taking the pressure off of trying to plan a service and learn music so quickly while building this large foundation and building this team unity might be just more stressful than it's worth, and might actually take away from us trying to build this foundation. And so we will resume leading musical worship in the spring semester in January. But we're going to take this semester and just have fun with each other. We're going to spend a lot of time building this foundation with each other. And we'll be leading musical worship with each other in our teams as well. So it's not like you guys won't be playing music. You'll just be doing it in the context of our worship teams. And a way to think about that too, if you want another reason to think about it, is that if you can lead worship, if you can worship God in a small room by yourself or with a small group of people, that is setting you up better to lead other people in worship. We're just taking the same thing you do in that small room and putting you in a bigger room with more people. But it's not changing the fact that worship is about you and God. And so if you can lead worship and be comfortable and excited about leading worship in a small context, you are ready to lead in a bigger context. If you find yourself not wanting to worship in a smaller context, that's a good sign that maybe there's some pride there or a heart issue there that we can talk about too at another point. So no musical worship this fall, but we're going to do a lot of other stuff. So if you check out the section under team practices, this is mandatory fun. So we're going to practice Sundays 4 to 6 starting on September 11th to December 12th. And that's going to be in the worship rehearsal room at the basement of the church office. So not the worship hall, not the church building, but the church office, which is on the other side of the academy. There's a sign that says church office. Key thing here is my text, or my number is right there for you guys. Put that in your phone. Please call or text me or buzz the little door thing when you're here. I don't want to leave you guys outside. That would not be fun. Also, I think it's just important for you guys to have my number. I am always just a text, call, whatever away. Don't hesitate to do that. We will not, there's some dates that we want to practice there. Please make sure you get those in the calendar as well. And then we're going to offer up some fun times during the week that are just purely about enjoying each other's company, about building team unity, giving you guys a break from the stress of school and stuff like that. And that's going to be doing things probably like hanging out, eating food, maybe watching some movies, maybe having jam sessions, kind of like whatever we feel like doing, and doing some team building there as well. I'll plan some things for that. And that is going to be either Tuesday from 6 to 8 or Wednesday from 4:30 to 6. And I'm still working out some details, so I'll send out some details later when I know that. Again, those are optional, but highly, highly encouraged, right? I see that time is really important in building this foundation. And we want you guys to have fun. We want you guys to enjoy being a part of worship team. Again, a couple dates with Thanksgiving and Christmas break that we won't be doing that. Final calendar thing for the fall I want to highlight is that we are going to go on a worship retreat. It's going to be a one-night retreat, October 28th and 29th at Lake Geneva Conference Point. I'll send out some more information later, so don't worry about that too much. But we are going to be doing that with my old church, Southbrook, and I helped set up that retreat for them before I left in the spring, and they still have room for us to join. So that's going to be a great time of just fun, of learning, of worshiping, and getting to meet some other cool students that love doing the exact same thing that you love doing. So turning our eyes to the spring. We're going to have same team practice times. I'm still working on how many teams that we're going to be able to have. So that'll kind of shape when we play and how much we play and stuff like that. So we'll have normal Sunday practices. And then we're also in the spring semester going to have another practice time. And this is a time for you guys to vote as well. Let me know if you have thoughts about it. We either can have that second practice like this Sunday before you lead. So like you would practice the Sunday before you lead, and you would practice the Sunday that you lead. So that would be like 2 weeks on Sundays, which if we only have 2 teams, A lot of the spring semester would mean that you guys are committed to being here every Sunday anyways, just like you are in the first semester. So that wouldn't be that much of a change. It would just mean more music more intensely, which if you love music and love it, hopefully at that point, it won't feel too intense. The other option is to try to get a midweek practice in there. And so that would mean that you wouldn't have to come every Sunday, but you would come I guess it would be every other Wednesday and Sunday. So let me know your thoughts on that, and then we'll have an end of the year party on May 28th. Let me grab a swig of coffee here. Again, I know that was a lot. Reach out to me if you have questions, but we will definitely communicate more details and changes that happen. So here's the thing. You are making a commitment by joining student worship. And what are you committing to? Great, glad you asked. So the first thing is that you're committing to being here and being on time. Part of you being a part of building this foundation in this house with us is that you actually have to be present to help build, right? And so if you want to be a part of that, if you want to grab the keys of this car with us, you're committing to being here as much as you can. Now we get it, life happens. I'm not going to be the attendance police, right? Who's going to track every time you miss here, but just communicate with us if you're going to be gone for whatever reason. And I ask you guys like up front to consider this a pretty major commitment of what you're doing this year. I think it's going to be awesome. I think you're going to have a lot of fun in it. And so I think it's worth committing to. And then the second thing you're committing to is carving time out of your own, on your own, to spend time with God and to practice worship. So we use this analogy of like a potluck, right? So at a potluck, everyone prepares food at home, whether, you know, different plates, different, thinking of the blanket on the word, different courses, like main course, dinner, desserts, drinks, stuff like that, right? Everyone brings their own unique component, and then they share it with everybody else in the potluck. That's kind of how worship bands are, right? So each person is playing a different role, whether that's singing, guitar, piano, bass, drums, tech, strings, like whatever that is. Each person, each of you guys is playing a role to cook a certain musical dish. And the beauty of a worship team is that we get to all work on those dishes on our own and then bring them together to make a delicious potluck of music and worship to God, which I love. It's delicious, it's fun. But a key part of that is that you have to commit to spending time on your own, making your own dish. And we're gonna help you with that. We're gonna give you tools, the right baking equipment to make that dish, musically speaking. But at the end of the day, you're still gonna have to go home and make that on your own time. And you're gonna have to spend time with God, right? Because worship is inherently between you and God. And so if you're not spending time with God, we're just playing music, which is fun, but that's not really the point of why we're here, right? You're also committing to thinking about how you conduct yourself and engage during student nights. The reality is that when we put anyone on a platform, on a stage, that people are going to look at them as leaders, which is great in a lot of ways. It can be really good. So you have the potential to model what Jesus looks like and have other people see that and want to be like that. But also the flip is true. If people see that you are worshiping Jesus, or you say you're worshiping Jesus on stage, but then during the rest of the student night, you are not being kind to people, you're disengaged, you're being distracting, people are going to question if you are really worshiping God on stage. And it's the Bible actually has a lot to say about people that we put on platforms and kind of higher standards kind of slacking, and the problems with that. Again, we're not asking you to be perfect, but I'm asking you to consider how you interact at student night with people and with what we're doing, especially when you're not leading worship. I'm also asking you guys committing to be real. Part of worship is being real with God in your time with him about how you're really doing in your heart and what's going on. And part of that is being real in community with those people in our teams that you love, that we love you and we want to support you. So we just need to be real with each other. And there's a lot of beauty that comes from that. You're also committing to being encouraging and loving, right? We want to build each other up. We have the power in our tongues to tear people down or to build each other up. And I think when we talk about being vulnerable, we talk about using our musical gifts and having other people see that, like those things can be really nerve-wracking, right? Those things can be really intimidating for us. And part of why it's intimidating for us is we don't want people to tear us down, right? We don't want people to judge us. We don't want people to know our weaknesses or our insecurities. And so the best way for us as a team to combat that is to right off the bat be encouraging and loving to each other, to always think through, how can I support my teammates? How are the words that come out of my mouth going to be helpful to them? So we'll talk about, what does constructive criticism look like? What does encouraging love look like? And yeah, just how does that impact the team? And then the final thing is, you're committing to having fun and enjoying this. Worship can be often difficult when we are stressed, and that's another discussion right there. But we want you guys to have fun. We want you guys to be want to be here. And I think that when you're in that place where you want to be here, you want to be invested, you're going to have the best experience, and you're going to be the most effective at leading other people in worship as well. So that's what you're committing to. If you have any more questions, here's my contact information. Reach out to me. Again, I'm a text, call, email, Facebook Messenger, because I'm old, message away. Don't be a stranger. So that is, I think, pretty much all of it. I'll reach out with some more stuff in the near future, but I think for now that's it. If you watch this video and you want to commit, please let me know ASAP so that we can start making these teams and seeing who we got, who I can start communicating with. If you have more questions and you're not quite ready to commit, let me know as well. We want to work with you and not just kind of leave you behind, if that makes sense. We want to walk with you. So I think that is it for now. Thank you guys for watching this, for being excited about worship this year, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.